Hello, I'm here to talk about the coronavirus. It's the 25th of March, and the death rate in Italy has reached about 6,500 so far, approaching the 7,000 mark. And I want to remind you of the story of the Little Prince. One of the planets that he visits, if you've read the story, has a king um, whose sole job is to order the sun to rise in the morning and to order the sun to set in the evening. That's his job. Now, of course, the sun would rise in the morning even if he didn't command it. And the sun would set in the evening even if he didn't command it. What's that got to do with the coronavirus? Well, people who know a lot more than I do about medicine have been saying that the the closing down of economies and putting people, ordering people to be in their homes, um, will not change dramatically the spread of the virus. Because people are still touching door handles, they're still going out of their home to buy certain basic provisions. Um, it's not going to change the spread of the virus. And this is something that is very true. But if so, how is it that already in China, in the Hubei province, we've seen that after 2 months, that there's been a massive drop in the number of cases, a massive, massive drop in the number of cases of the coronavirus? The answer is that there would have been a massive drop in the number of corona cases, even if they hadn't made that vast closure of the entire society. It would still have happened because this is how viruses work, especially flu type viruses in the winter. This is the way that they work. You get a graph. There's a sharp rise in the amount of mortality, and then it peaks and then it drops. And this is what we have seen in the Hubei province of China. So really, I want to go back now to Italy and to say that even though they've had a massive close down of the society there, nevertheless, even without that close down, we would be seeing this graph, this classic virus epidemic, winter virus epidemic graph that we've seen so many times. We would be seeing it in Italy. I can say to you now that the mortality rate has already peaked in Italy at 900 it reached a day, the highest point last week. And we will be seeing in the next week or two maximum, we'll be seeing that dropping substantially in the next week or two. And the reason is not because they've closed down the country. It's like the story of the Little Prince. You know, even if the king did not command in the morning the sun to rise and in the evening the sun to set, it would rise and set anyway. So I call upon all governments of the world to not to get their populations into a state of hysteria, and I think that nevertheless, of course, it is a virus like other previous viruses that we've seen in the winter, which is dangerous. I'm not saying that we should not be taking steps. Of course, we should be taking steps. We should all be washing our hands regularly, and we shouldn't be going too close to people, certainly not coughing on people. These are very sensible precautions to be an imperative to be taking every winter. This winter is nothing special. Remember? No. Who remembers that in Italy in the winter of 2014 to 15, who remembers that 20,000 people, almost all of them old people, died? Who remembers the winter, the tragic, shocking winter 4 years ago of 2016 to 17? Who's mentioning that? Which of the experts is mentioning the winter of 2016 in Italy when 25,000 people died? Most of them, of course, were old people. It's shocking. It's tragic. But why this year, all of a sudden, are people becoming, are governments and experts becoming hysterical, whereas they weren't in previous years? You know, in previous years, health systems struggled in the winters, particularly of 2014 and 2016, if we remember recent history, struggled to deal with the rising, the high number of people who were sick with the viruses then. So everybody has to calm down. And I think that the steps being taken in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and in Singapore, which are much more sensible, much more relaxed. Businesses are still open, restaurants are still open. It's permitted to go to the park and to the beach. Okay, they have many people working from home as much as possible. Anytime you go into a store, then you need to be tested, that you don't have a temperature, and you have to wash your hands. So they're taking steps, but in a much calmer way, and not like the European-led hysteria. The Europeans have shown themselves in recent years to become very hysterical, they are no longer for us the example that we should be looking to. The news is filled with the steps that Italy, Germany, France, and other countries are taking, but we should be more looking to the Far East and seeing the way that they deal with things. Those three countries that I mentioned are the correct model for us.